Hi, clowns. Welcome to Crimenelia Street. I'm Tori,
And I'm Sam,
and we're gathered here today.
and peace be unto you.
Did I just hear a cat meow, like on your side?
It probably is my child.
Okay.
It's right before bedtime, so
Okay.
it's the witching hour.
For
That
sure. Yeah.
hour or so they go ham, and it is crazy. And my wonderful boyfriend is dealing with that.
The hour of fun.
Yeah, for us. Yep, and I see an actual kitty cat.
The cat is here. Yeah, he was not beckoned in any way, shape, or form. But here he said, "Oh, you're doing something now? I think it would be a good time to consistently rub my face on your hands and try to get pets." So
Well, we were just talking about Severance and how we're just kind of hopped up, honestly.
a little bit,
I am.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am too. And I'm like, because besides Severance, I've been watching just like Housewives, and Summer House, which is so good this season. And White Lotus is now done. That's kind of like a Severance-ish show where it's like, a little thinky, you're trying to figure it out. But yeah, so now it's like flopping back to like season 2 of Real Housewives of Orange County, and I'm like, I just feeling a bit of a hole in my heart now that Severance is done.
I felt the same way. I'm like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
I did not expect to be that sucked into a show. Yeah, it consumed my thoughts for a while. Oh, so what is your name?
Oh, so I am Nay today. And this is contrasting yay. Yes, as that one. Yep. So it's an E. It could also, I would accept an interpretation of the Knights who say ni as well.
Okay.
I think either works and is just as fun.
Yeah, I agree. That's so funny. I actually was going to talk about Monty Python a bit in this episode randomly.
Yeah. I don't hate that.
Right. It's just like a little blip. It's just something that like popped into my mind. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bring that up.
That's so funny. Like, when's the last time we talked about Monty Python, and then we're both bringing it up in the same
right.
way.
It's that wavelength thing, man. It happens.
So Sam tonight is I want a hot dog real bad.
So there's a couple steps, I guess, I took to get to this one. One of them is Cardigan that was just released, the Fearless Cardigan that Taylor Swift just put out. And there are theories and Easter eggs
I'm getting excited to
Me
clown
too.
again.
Yeah, and it just has to do with the 4th of July, so maybe we can talk about that at the end. And it all comes together. It all, of course, always makes perfect sense.
Of course.
So, 4th of July.
It's also a record store day today. So the Fortnite like little baby album was out today. I tried to look if it was near, like I could get it at any stores near me, and the whole process of trying to figure that out was very confusing to me, and I was like, fuck it.
Right. I'm sure there'll be plenty more releases to take part in.
Yeah. And like even if I found out which store it was at, like the chances of actually getting one were probably so low. So
Right. So
were people even able to get the record store day? Like, was it all over the country, or is it just at like one store?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I did hear about record store day and about the Fortnite thing, but I didn't really see much like buzz about it other than that one.
I was just curious because I tried to look it up and I only saw like one store listed for her, but also again the whole thing was very confusing, so I feel like I could have done it wrong.
It happens.
Yeah. Do the sad stuff.
Yeah, let's do some of the sad stuff.
I feel like we've been happy for quite a while now.
Too long.
Honestly.
Just kidding. But I'm trying to decide whether to play the 911 call first or a little bit later on. I think I'm going to play the call first.
It starts, or I love when there is a 911 call.
I think I have preconceived notions about this because I watched a documentary on it first that kind of leans to one side, and then kind of doing more research, you kind of go to the other side, and I still truly don't know what to believe, and it
Okay.
is hard.
I'm intrigued.
Right. On December the 9th, 2001, at 2:40 a.m. approximately, a man named Michael Peterson called 911 for help. He had found his wife, Kathleen Peterson, unconscious but breathing at the bottom of a staircase in their home. He told the operator she had fallen down the stairs and needed assistance right away. He began to get frustrated with the 911 operator's questions, and the call disconnected. He called back 5 minutes later to once again ask for help and stated at this point she was no longer breathing.
911, where's your emergency? Oh, can't feel pretty great. What's wrong? What kind of she's still breathing? What kind of accident? She's still breathing. She'll be conscious, huh? She's conscious. Okay. How many stairs did you fall down? How many stairs? How many stairs? Calm down, sir. Calm down. No, she's saying 20. I don't know. Okay, sit back in the ambulance and ask me questions.
So that was the first call, and I do not have a recording of the second call. Or it just says the call disconnected and he had called back. It was about 5 minutes later.
I always find it very interesting when people have a theory as to what happened at the time that they're making the 911 call. Like Ellen Greenberg's fiance, too. He's like, she fell on a knife. She must have stabbed herself with the knife. It's noted. It's certainly noted. Why would you assume there was an accident? I guess that's like less of a leap than she fell on a knife.
Right.
But still, I don't know. You'd think you would be like, oh my God, what happened? And
Like,
not just say something that doesn't implicate yourself. But I've never been in that situation, and it's hard to judge people who are in that situation. So
yeah, I agree. It definitely sounds a little off to me. Even without even knowing anything about the case, I would say it sounds a bit off. And I did hear something interesting, and I'm sure this isn't true 100% of the time, but it was something like liars try to convince you, and people who are telling the truth just state like facts or something like that. So if you don't know what happened, why would you go ahead and say something that you don't know is fact, I guess?
right, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, just something interesting to note. But yeah, that's a great point for sure. So EMTs and police arrived shortly after, and they found quite a gruesome scene. The lead police detective, his name is Art Holland, and he said that when he entered the home, he saw what appeared to be two legs sticking out of a doorway to his left, and once he approached the victim, there was an abundant amount of blood on her, on the floor, on the walls, on the door frame, and it just was not consistent with a fall down the stairs.
Right.
Like, crazy looking. And the crime scene photos are something else. Like, there's blood everywhere. And her head was kind of resting on the landing and like the first steps of this really narrow staircase. They lived in a mansion. They had like a grand staircase, and this was a back staircase that had kind of a hallway that was leading up, and it was very narrow. But yeah, she was just at the bottom of these stairs. So Michael's recollection of the events from that evening were that the two of them had enjoyed a nice dinner together. They had a couple of bottles of wine and watched a movie that he had rented from Blockbuster. They decided to finish their drinks outside by the pool and just talk. And a short time afterwards, Kathleen stated that she had a conference call early in the morning and was going to head inside to prepare and go to sleep. And Michael decided to stay by the pool, smoke a cigar, and just hang out there for a little bit. He went inside their home about 40 minutes afterwards, only to find Kathleen barely alive at the bottom of their back staircase, and that's when he called 911. 11 days after this, Michael Peterson was arrested on the charge of first-degree murder. This was the beginning of a very long process, a very long trial. The trial alone took about 5 months, and there were appeals and retrials in the works just following the years after. Another interesting thing about this case is a documentary crew filmed pretty much the entire process of the defense team and Michael's side of the story. They were interviewing him, I think, just maybe a month after she died.
Is that the documentary you watched?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on Netflix and it's called The Staircase. Yeah, it is. It's really good, but learning a bit more, you can clearly see how the documentary was biased towards him. So I just want to go over just a couple of the main characters that are in this case. So starting with Michael. Michael Peterson was born on October the 23rd, 1943, near Nashville, Tennessee. He graduated from Duke with a bachelor's in political science, and then later on he took a contracting job with the Department of Defense. He was assigned to just analyze and research arguments to support the country's involvement in the Vietnam War. He also married a woman named Patty in 1965. He volunteered to join the Marine Corps to go to Vietnam, which is quite different. Most people were not wanting to be drafted. While he was in Vietnam, Patty, his wife, moved to Germany, where she lived on a military base there, where she taught at an elementary school. So during his time in the war, he ended up being honorably discharged after a car accident happened in Japan that left him permanently disabled. He has also said before that he was awarded a Silver Star, a Bronze Star, and 2 Purple Hearts. And just so you know, a Silver Star is the 3rd highest military decoration for valor in combat, similarly to a Bronze Star, and a Purple Heart is awarded in the name of a president to those wounded or killed while serving. So the 2 Purple Hearts is quite a big deal.
Yeah.
After being discharged, he moved to Germany to be with his wife, Patty, and then they had 2 sons named Clayton and Todd. They became very close with a couple that lived a few doors down from them. They were kind of in a row of townhomes. And this couple's name is George and Elizabeth Ratliff. Elizabeth, or they call her Liz, was very close with Patty. They became best friends as they taught at the same elementary school on the Air Force Base. And Liz's husband, George, was actually an Air Force captain. So him and Michael became close friends as well, just having the similar military background. They were just kind of like best couple friends. George and Liz had 2 daughters named Margaret and Martha, who were a few years younger than Michael and Patty's kids. George, unfortunately, died of a heart attack pretty suddenly while he was stationed in Grenada, shortly after Martha was born in 1983. And after this, Michael really became an active member in Liz's life and her daughter's lives, and he kind of took that role of a father figure. And sadly, a few years later, Liz died in 1985 from a cerebral hemorrhage, so leaving both of her daughters orphaned. Michael and Patty were actually named the caretakers of their children in both George's will and Liz's will. And after they passed away, Margaret and Martha were then adopted by Michael and Patty at the ages of 2 and 3.
Okay. I'm so young.
I know, so sad. So that was in 1985. In 1986, Michael and Patty began to have some marital problems, and they just decided amicably to get a divorce. Michael ends up moving back to the States, and he settles in Durham, North Carolina, and he brought Margaret and Martha with him. Clayton and Todd stayed with their mother in Germany for a little bit, but eventually moved to the United States with Michael.
Okay, so he has all 4 kids now.
Yep, he has all 4
Okay.
kids. Michael meets a woman named Kathleen Atwater in 1987. Kathleen was very lively, very smart. She was actually the first woman engineering student at Duke University.
So cool. Love
Right,
that.
yeah. She's a boss. She continued to get her master's in mechanical engineering. She was just a very active member in the community and even won awards for her philanthropy. So just everyone loved this lady. Yeah, she had a daughter from a previous marriage. Her name was Caitlin. And Caitlin actually went to Margaret and Martha's school, and she became friends with the eldest daughter, Margaret, and that's how Kathleen and Michael met, was through their daughters. Okay. So they ended up meeting, and soon the whole blended family was living together. So it was a total of the 5 kids, and then Kathleen and Michael.
Not far off from a Brady Bunch. Almost like
Right.
gender-wise too.
Exactly. Yeah, it was very much a Brady Bunch situation. So Michael and Kathleen then got married a few years later. They were together for a while and living together, but they got married in 1997, and they together bought a $1.7 million mansion together in this prestigious area called Forest Hills in Durham, North Carolina. Their relationship was said to almost be like a fairy tale. The kids said that they were totally in love and supportive and devoted to each other. They were able to just blend their lives together pretty seamlessly. And soon Margaret and Martha even began calling Kathleen mom. They got super close.
Wow.
Yeah. So they just had a big circle of friends and were together, involved in the community as well. So yeah, it just seemed like this picture perfect situation. Yeah. You know, here Michael was, he adopted these 2 girls who were orphaned, and he was kind of like a war hero, and she was the smart businesswoman, and yeah, it all looked so great. Now, after his time in the military, Michael began to write a lot of war novels just based on his times in the Vietnam War. He also became a journalist for a newspaper in North Carolina called the Herald Sun, and he wrote, I thought this was interesting, he wrote a few articles that were pretty critical of the police and the district attorney, whose name is Jim Hardin, who also happens to be the same district attorney that prosecutes him for this crime or this murder or this trial.
Interesting. Okay, noted.
Just a little. It is a little, it's just one of those, this case has so many different caveats that it's just really hard to know the truth. And he was pretty successful as a writer. He got an $800,000 advance for one of his novels that he was writing, and he was also in talks with Hollywood about turning one of his war novels into a movie. He also ran for mayor of Durham, North Carolina in 1999.
What an all-around guy.
Right? Just, However, during this run, it kind of came out that there was no actual evidence of his Purple Hearts being awarded. He had the Bronze Star and the Silver Star, and he eventually admitted that he was lying about his injuries from his time in the war. He said that the Purple Hearts were from one by him being hit by shrapnel from a landmine that another soldier of his stepped on. And he said that the other one was from when he was shot.
Is he actually disabled?
He is. He did
Okay.
actually get disabled from that car accident that happened in like Japan.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But he did, like, he had a whole squad, and they did see combat in Vietnam and all of that, but he apparently just exaggerated his injuries.
Wow. Okay. That's cute.
Right. Real cute, Michael.
I thought it was interesting the way you worded it. You were like, I can't remember how you said it, but I was like, what does that mean? Did he not actually get those?
Right. Spoiler alert. He didn't. But really, other than that, that was all that came out. They had the Picture Perfect Life, which all, of course, changed on December the 9th, 2001. So one thing that the police and first responders kept referring to was just the enormous amount of blood all over the walls, the staircase, the door frames, and just the fact that normally people don't die from falling just such a short distance. So the toxicology results showed that Kathleen's blood alcohol level was 0.07%. So, she had obviously been drinking, but she was under the legal driving limit of 0.08.
She probably had like a glass and a half or something.
Yeah, a couple glasses. Yeah. And he did say that they had been drinking, they had gone through about 2 bottles of wine. And she also, it showed that she had taken between 5 to 15 milligrams of Valium as well. The autopsy report concluded that the 48-year-old woman had sustained a matrix of severe injuries, including, it says, a fracture of the superior of the left thyroid cartilage. So that's the side of her neck. And that indicates that there had been a lot of pressure on the neck, which is consistent with strangulation. They normally see that. And she had 7 lacerations to the top and the back of her head, which they also said was consistent with blows from a blunt object. And she had died from a blood loss 90 minutes to 2 hours after sustaining the injury, which is interesting because Michael also said that he stayed out by the pool about 40 minutes before he came inside.
Right. And also, now knowing the amount of blood at this scene, I'm finding it more strange that he jumped to the conclusion of she must have had an accident. Because you'd think you'd look at that and be like, someone tried to kill my wife. Someone must have broken in, if you're going to draw a conclusion.
Right. Not that. It was just, she fell down the stairs.
And bled out.
Right. I agree. Which is like, yeah, like you would think, oh, she maybe like broke her neck or something, not that she died from blood loss.
Right. And that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But seeing the blood, because he must have seen the blood during the 911 call. You just wouldn't say accident. I feel she had an accident. I feel like that's such a strange conclusion.
Yeah. So, of course, he was arrested and everything. He hired a whole defense team. Actually, watching the documentary, I do like his lawyer. His the lead lawyer was named David Rudolph. And he actually seems like a really good lawyer. They hired a forensic expert named Henry Lee, and he began to testify that the blood splatter evidence was consistent with a fall down the stairs or an accidental fall down the stairs. However, the police investigators disagreed. And then the more information they got from Michael, the more they became suspicious. And since Michael was the only person around at the time of Kathleen's death, he was named obviously a prime suspect, and they charged him with her murder on December the 20th, 2001. So 11 days later. And everyone in their circle was shocked. They could not believe that he was even being considered. They believed him to be innocent, especially the children, and especially the two daughters, Margaret and Martha. And at the time of Kathleen's death, just to give you an idea of the ages, so Clayton, his oldest son, was 27. Todd was 25. Caitlin, who was Kathleen's daughter from the previous marriage, was 19. Margaret was 20, and Martha was the youngest at 18.
So they're all adults.
Yeah, they're all adults at this point, and even his ex-wife Patty, who knew Kathleen and became friends with her, insisted on his innocence, and she just said that he'd never been violent like that before. Like, there's no way that this could happen. And it's really interesting listening to the different interviews with the kids and his ex-wife Patty, who still lives in Germany. They were asked about their relationship and everything, and the kids were like, no, they were so in love, and the only time, you know what, I'm going to bring that up later. Never mind.
Okay.
I'll bring that up later.
Okay. Color me intrigued.
So after he was arrested, he spent about a week in jail, and then he was released on an $850,000 bond. Yeah, and he had to give up a lot. Like, he had to give up his passport, all of his travel documents,
Good.
his car, not allowed to travel anywhere, couldn't leave the state, all of that. And the trial finally started in July of 2003. And during this whole time, the case was highly publicized, and the public really came out for Michael, and his, like, everyone believed Michael, that he was innocent. They were like, there's no way that this man would do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned he was represented by an attorney named David Rudolph. And so their defense, the story that they came up with to tell the jury, was that Kathleen was pretty intoxicated, which I guess if you slip some Valium into the mix of a couple bottles of wine, maybe, I get that.
I mean, a couple bottles is a lot
Yeah.
alone. But with her alcohol, like blood alcohol content, maybe he
Mhm.
drank more of the couple bottles or something, because it should be like 2 tops 3 drinks. I mean, depends on your body size and how
Right,
lean you
right.
are and all that. But like, it should only be 2 or 3 drinks to hit the like 0.08.
Yeah, because I think it goes with each glass. You should go up like 0.02% approximately. I think I've read that
I thought it
somewhere.
was more than
That
that.
that could be totally wrong. But yeah, it just 0.07 just doesn't seem like you're wasted and
No,
you're not
certainly not
functioning.
like a whole bottle of wine.
Right. So they did say that Kathleen was pretty intoxicated, and while walking up the stairs, she fell backwards. She was wearing flip-flops at the time, which were found next to her body. And the staircase, I mentioned briefly before, was dark and pretty narrow. They argued that she had actually fallen a few times and kept on trying to get up, and with each time she was just slipping and repeatedly hitting her head. And it is common for head injuries to bleed quite a bit.
And like 7 times though, like how, because she had 7 lacerations.
All over her head.
Right. So it's just like, how does that play out with a 15 to 20 stair drop? Like, you would have to tumble, what, at least 5 or 6 times, I feel like, to get 7 openings in the skull.
Yeah, and they're pretty deep. I was actually really surprised with how much they showed in the documentary, like crime scene photo wise. And you look at that and you're like, that is not just someone tumbling down the stairs a couple times. But it's just,
We're not the cops.
I don't know. We're not the cops. We don't know. We're not the professionals. There was also a lot of blood splatter, and they said that was from her coughing. Autopsy showed no bruises on her arms or legs. So you would also think if you're tumbling down these stairs, you would also have bruising, obviously. And yeah, no bruises, just head injuries. Another interesting thing to note was when the first responders first got there, most of the blood was dry.
Mm.
I mentioned also that the autopsy showed that she had been dead for at least from 90 minutes up to 2 hours before she actually died, which
Right.
conflicts with what Michael was saying, that he was out by the pool for
Yup.
40 minutes before he went inside.
Mm-hmm.
The medical examiner, whose name is Deborah Radish, concluded that Kathleen had died from the lacerations of the scalp, which was caused by a homicidal assault. According to her, the total of 7 lacerations from the top to the back of Kathleen's head were the result of repeated blows with a light yet rigid weapon. The defense, of course, disputed this theory. According to their analysis, the lacerations were not consistent with blows of any kind of weapon because they said that there was a lack of underlying injury, such as bruising or swelling of the brain. Sometimes I just think that these people just kind of like make things up that sound good, or that like just fit.
It's a stretch. It's a stretch for
Right.
sure, because no matter what the cause of the injury was, like, that is the cause of death. And like, even if she had fallen down the stairs, the lack of that being there also disproves falling down the stairs.
Yeah, I just love how you're coming to the same.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, but if there's all these factors, such as where Michael had been critical of the same DA and police force that are now investigating him for murder, so did they have some bias? Did these people know? Because there's some people saying the very first, I think, medical examiner that got there looked at it, was like, oh yeah, this is just a fall. And then it's when the police started investigating, they picked up on all these things. And they started talking to the EMTs and all of that. And in the documentary, Michael did say about an hour or two after police arrived, he noticed that he was never alone. Like, the cops were always there watching what he was doing and all that. So they suspected something quite like right away. So is that because it really was that suspicious, or was it because they do have this bias against him? But then again, it's just like looking at these crime scene photos, it just doesn't look like she just fell down the stairs. Like, there's something else happening.
Right.
In here. But then it's now the prosecution, they have to establish a motive. There needs to be a murder weapon. There's all these other little factors. So Kathleen's sister ends up contacting the prosecution. I did mention in the beginning how everyone was saying there's no way this could happen. Michael doesn't have like a violent bone in his body and everything. But Kathleen ends up coming forward and saying, actually, he does have a temper. And somehow something called a blowpoke gets introduced into the case. And a blowpoke is something that you use for a fireplace, and it's hollow, so you can, blow and provide oxygen to the fire and also tend to the fire. And she had given the couple like a custom fireplace set of these tools, and
they can be really fancy and pretty.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were like collectors things.
Yeah, like someone who's very affluent would probably have like a very expensive like set of fire pokey things.
Well, good to know, and that makes a lot of sense, because it's like, oh, I gifted them this fireplace set. It's like, oh, okay.
Like, I had one that had, when I was out on the West Coast, I had like little geese heads on it and stuff. Like, yeah, they're like, they can be decorative.
Okay, cool. Well, that is good to know. So they actually found that one of the blowpokes were missing. So they kind of talked about this, and what I've gathered with this case is the prosecution messed up like a lot. So one of these blowpokes were missing. They couldn't find it. They mentioned this in the opening statements of the trial to the jury, and they were never able to back it up fully because they couldn't find it. But it was just interesting that they kind of made it seem like it was like fact that the blowpoke was used when there wasn't actually any evidence of it. But yeah, their whole approach to the whole case, I mean, even outside of the documentary, just reading about it, you can tell that they kind of were really gung-ho on like, taking this guy down. Like, they did not like him at all. And they were
Okay.
actually kind of unprofessional in the courtroom. Like, they would sneer and make faces, and you're supposed to be kind of stoic.
Yeah, weird.
You know, you're supposed to be professional. They would make little kind of like chants and stuff. I don't know. It was a very weird thing to see
It's
like
strange,
clips of.
yeah.
But they wanted just to make it a point to show that Michael was a liar. They brought up the whole like the Purple Heart thing. It's like so valid. Like if he can lie about something as serious as that,
Yeah.
what else is he lying about? They also brought up that the 2 wine glasses that they found at the scene that Michael said that they were drinking out of, Kathleen's fingerprints weren't on any of those glasses. So that was interesting. And then they brought in their own blood splatter analysis who said that the scene was more consistent with someone like raising a weapon and beating them over and over. They also had to establish a motive for the murder, and here's where the first kind of huge bombshell gets let out. The prosecution gives the courtroom the evidence that they found on his computer that Michael was actually bisexual and was having affairs with men while married to Kathleen. They found thousands of pornographic photos and conversations that he was having with other men on his home computer. And they found out that he actually was having an affair currently with a 26-year-old escort named Brent. And they had been having like a secret relationship for about 4 months prior to her death. And he was brought in as a witness for the prosecution.
Wow. Okay, so he can lie, apparently pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone seemed to think things were perfect, like in their marriage and relationship and stuff. So that's interesting. And poor Kathleen part.
Right. So it turns out that there was also evidence that Kathleen had accessed Michael's computer the evening before her death and possibly using it to prepare for that conference call the next morning. And Michael, for some reason, had printed out the conversations that he had with Brent, and he kept those conversations in his desk drawer. They were saying that she could have found something like that, which caused an argument that she brought up to Michael, which led to confrontation.
Or what if he printed it up because they had an argument about it to maybe prove like it's not as bad as you're thinking, or I don't know. I guess it might not prove that because it was pretty bad.
I guess, yeah, for sure. And something that I thought was interesting that I heard in the documentary was they were interviewing, this was specifically Margaret and Martha, and they were like, what was their relationship like? Like, did they ever argue? Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, no, they never argued. The only thing would be, you know, he would come home from the gym late and he'd be late for dinner. And so she would make a little remark about that, but it would always just kind of be like a, you know, just a quick little
like passive
aggressive, but it wasn't ever serious, you know. And then I heard they kind of rewound to talking about Patty, and she was talking about having dinner, and she's like, yeah, he would come home, he would always come home late from the gym. And it is just so interesting that 2 separate parties are saying he would come home late from the gym.
Yeah. Across many, many years.
Across, yes, like literally like decades. So
yeah,
just something interesting.
So he's really good at lying for a really long time.
And so then Michael was claiming that Kathleen knew about his bisexuality and was okay with him having these affairs. You know, it was just kind of like an agreement that they had. But Kathleen's family said that she would like 100% not be okay with this. She was very much like under impression that you guys, or that Michael and her were exclusive. They were married. So the prosecution also would start to bring up the financial aspects of their lives. So they obviously lived in that really, really nice mansion. But it did come out that they were $143,000 in debt.
Ouch.
Yeah, Michael's writing career kind of had become stagnant. That Hollywood proposal for his book wasn't really coming to fruition. And they were pretty much living month to month on credit cards. Kathleen's salary was $145,000. And right, I mean,
That's amazing for that time period for a woman.
Exactly. Yeah. She was pretty high up. And I think it was called Nortel. It was like a telecom company. And what they started to find with that kind of industry, with like emails, as funny as it sounds, like emails and the internet becoming a bigger part of our lives at that time, that company was not doing so well and was starting to lay off people. So her job was also kind of in jeopardy. And then it was also revealed through emails between Michael and Patty, his ex-wife, that both of his sons had gotten into a lot of debt as well. And Michael was hiding this from Kathleen. He was not telling her about their financial issue.
Another mark against Michael.
And Kathleen did have quite a good life insurance policy set up for herself, which was worth over $1 million. I think it was just under 1.5 million. So so we got like a financial motive, we got kind of the affair motive. And when I found out this next part, this is where I was like, no, dude, are you freaking kidding me? So, do you remember me talking about Liz Ratliff, their friend, the mother of Margaret and Mary, that passed away? Well, she has a sister named Margaret. And when she heard about Michael's second wife being found dead at the bottom of the stairs, she contacted authorities because it turns out that Liz Ratliff died in a very similar fashion. She was found at the bottom of their stairs in pools of blood, like blood.
I have formed my opinion.
Girl. So according to police reports in Germany, this is what happened. Liz and her daughters had dinner with the Petersons that night. They lived a few doors down from each other, so Michael walked Liz and the girls back to their house. A neighbor did tell police that they saw Michael running from the home later on that evening. Just a little note. The next morning, Liz was found by the girls' nanny, Barbara. The girls were still asleep in their beds, and Barbara showed up for work and found her. She was found with many lacerations on the back of her head, and just like Kathleen. Now, in the days leading up to her death, she was complaining of headaches. Like, this is reported by like her coworkers. Patty, the ex-wife, said this, that she had just been getting really bad headaches. So the German police and the U.S. military police concluded that it was actually the result of a cerebral hemorrhage, which caused her to fall down the stairs. So he was questioned by police, but he also mentioned the headaches and was like, oh, it must have been a brain aneurysm. And then she fell down the stairs. And also what's interesting is Patty, his ex-wife, and Liz, like, they could be sisters or twins. They look so similar. Like, when you look at pictures of them from back in the day, you're like, oh my gosh, they're either twins or like very closely related.
Interesting.
And then Patty was also asked, like, there's no, like, is there any way that they could have been having an affair? And she's like, absolutely not. No way. Never, you know.
But we do know his track record. Interesting. Okay. And Liz was going through a ton emotionally. Very interesting.
Yeah. So once this all got brought to light, prosecution actually went to go exhume her body. She was actually shipped back to the States and she was buried
Liz's
in Texas.
body?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, this was in like 1985 she died. And this was now like 2003.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, they went to exhume Liz's body, which was buried in Texas, and they actually did make a huge kind of spectacle of this. Like, there were news crews all over the place. And also, instead of it being examined right there in Texas, they ended up transporting the body to Tennessee, where the same medical examiner, Deborah Radish, concluded that her injuries were also consistent with a homicide via blunt trauma. So it is just odd that, is this just the worst? Is he the most unlucky guy, or to have these two scenarios that are so similar? Like, he's the common factor in both cases.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is it just a really awful coincidence or not?
And like conspiracies again, it would require a conspiracy against him too, with like the blood being dry when the cops got there, and I don't know.
Right. There would need to be a lot of facts fudged, but... So despite all that, Michael was never charged for Liz's death, but the prosecution did still use this info in the trial against him. And this really caused like the public opinion of Michael. It went from, no, this guy's innocent, to people are like, oh, hell no, something's wrong. So, yeah.
And Liz's kids, did they know this?
Yeah, they knew everything. They were actually like right there behind him the entire time, and they were just like staunchly like adamant that he did not do this.
Okay.
Like one of the daughters was like, the only, factor that's the same is that these two women were both really loved by him and he would never hurt them. And it's like they're saying it, and I almost swear like they realize what they're saying in the moment, but they're still in denial about the facts that are being presented to them.
Yeah, because they were raised by him. I mean, 2 and 3, that's like some Stockholm, syndrome kind of shit there. I feel like just,
yeah,
you didn't really know your mom, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then you've known this person your whole life as a parent figure. So, yeah. That's just that's a lot.
Yep. So the prosecution was doing pretty good with all these factors being brought up. They were still missing a huge piece of evidence, which is the murder weapon itself. Interestingly enough, the defense team then found the blowpoke. Apparently, one of Michael's sons was cleaning the garage when he found the missing blowpoke from the fireplace set. They did do forensic testing on it, and they didn't find any blood or any evidence of someone cleaning blood off. All they found was like literally like dust and spiderweb. They also brought the jury out to the Peterson home so they can just see the layout for themselves of the pool, the staircase that she fell down. The trial lasted for 5 months, and during the deliberation, the jury decided that, one, the blowpoke could not have been used as a weapon. That kind of ruled out that. They also decided not to consider the death of Liz Ratliff in their decision at all. And even despite that, Michael Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder on October the 5th, 2003, in a unanimous decision. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And, of course, this devastated Michael and his children, apart from Caitlin, Kathleen's daughter. She initially completely supported him and believed in his innocence, but after reading the autopsy report, she changed her mind. And it seems like Kathleen's family, Caitlin, and the rest of her family had been led to believe that her injuries were not that severe, like she did just fall down the stairs, but once they saw the photos and read the reports, that completely changed their mind. So after he was convicted, Michael still insisted on his innocence. He started to appeal right away. got a new attorney that said Michael didn't have a fair trial. And this was actually brought up to the North Carolina Supreme Court in 2007, where the court still upheld their decision. His original attorney, David Rudolph, stepped back in pro bono because he just felt bad. This guy really believes that he's innocent. Michael Peterson is innocent. And he was granted another trial and actually was released from prison on house arrest on December the 11th, 2011, since he didn't get a fair trial originally. So the new trial was then set for a date in May 2017, but this is when Michael decided to enter an Alford plea, which is where you acknowledge that there is enough evidence to convict you, but you still maintain your innocence. His charges were then dropped to involuntary manslaughter, and then he was sentenced to 86 months in prison, which he had already served. So he was just released on time served, and he is now a free man.
Ew.
Yep. A few other things came out after this. It is then revealed that the editor of that documentary, The Staircase, was actually in a relationship with Michael during the filming and his time in jail.
What the fuck? And his time in jail?
Yeah, they were all together the whole thing.
Not
and
one of those.
I know, and he did actually move in with her after he was released from jail. Then there is this is the last, like, bit about this case, which this is how I actually first heard about this case was on Reddit, and there's this thing called the owl theory. And I think his defense team, this was one of the theories that they were trying to play with. It just never came to fruition. So they say that, so Kathleen, she went inside and it's December. She noticed that they didn't have any Christmas decorations outside yet. And she had like 2 of these like white reindeer kind of light up things that you put in your front yard. So she went to go do that. And on her way back into the home, an owl attacked her and scratched her head because one of the lacerations like kind of looked like claw marks, and so they're saying it was an owl because they also found a twig in her hair, and then they said that she had feathers on her, but they don't mention that these are literally like little not microscopic, but very, very tiny little feathers, like they just found them on like her shirt or something.
Like not an owl feather.
Right, but
because owls are big birds.
Right, and like, why would an owl just like randomly attack you like that?
I'm an ecologist. I see owls often. I have yet to see an aggressive owl or a rabid. I feel like this would require a rabid owl.
Yeah. Good to know, because I hadn't heard of owls being aggressive, but who knows?
I've yet to see it.
Yeah.
Do you think there were owls in Germany too?
I guess we gotta bring that up. We gotta bring that back up to him. Yeah, that is the story. And I mean, I'm leaning on the side that he did it, but this guy does just look so unassuming. But
I don't feel like I've ever landed so sternly in my opinion before. I feel like it was him. In my head, I'm 95% there.
Right. I think it's because like I watched maybe too much of that documentary that obviously now we know is way skewed towards him, because he was dating the editor.
That'll do it.
Yeah, but yeah, so he's just kind of bopping around now. So for some happy stuff, I guess. Well, this isn't happy because of the Kanye.
Despicable.
How is this still happening?
Honestly, I think he's like on this like weird like need to be relevant kind of tour right now. Like when he showed up at, was it the Grammys?
Yep.
No, it wasn't. It was VMAs maybe. I don't know. He showed up at one of the award shows recently, like, and his wife was practically naked, and they got cut like, and he was quoted as like asking where Taylor Swift was on the red carpet and stuff. I feel like he's just really trying to piggyback off of like the fame that he got when they had their feud.
Mhm.
And he's being the most despicable, disgusting human about it. And I'm so glad
Absolutely.
that she sent a cease and desist.
Yeah, for sure. You are really trying to stay relevant, huh?
In the
Um,
worst way. Yeah, he definitely subscribes to like there's no bad media, I feel like.
mhm.
Because that's most of what he's gotten. And I only saw that one TikTok that you sent me, but pretty much Kanye is just like getting online at like odd hours and just tweeting some really like offensive, strange, bizarre things about Taylor, like that she was um having sexual intercourse with multiple other famous people at the same time, and just things that are like way out of character for anything we've ever heard about Taylor.
Right, right.
um
And then he was like,
and
"Oh, you guys should have called me so I could have joined in too
ew, that's
and
right.
stuff." So, cease and desist. Yep.
Oh, I
Um,
don't think, did we ever get to the end of all the steps you took to get to I want a hot dog real bad?
oh yeah. So the clown theory on the street is in relation to the Fearless Taylor's version cardigan that has, I think, is there 50 stars?
It's,
Um,
I don't think anyone's gotten them yet, so we're not totally sure, but it's like, I think they've counted like 48 or something, so there might be 50.
yep. And all of the models that are wearing it have stripes on. So it's like stars and stripes.
They're getting better. I do feel like the stars and stripes thing could be a thing. Like, that's easy, that's simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
of course, you could find 1,000 numbers to back it up.
Fit it in.
Right. But I could get on board with the stars and stripes theory.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, we have two dates that are kind of close for a possible announcement day, April the 20th and May the 2nd.
May
So those are
2nd.
right around the corner. So, yep. But July the 4th, that could be a fun day. I mean, we got to
It's
get it this
feeling,
year.
and no, July's 7. I was gonna say
That would be
July's the
cool.
6th month. 6/6 I've also been hearing. I think
Okay.
just because the sixes.
Yep. And the 6th album.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess we'll just
All
keep
I know
on
is it's
being a
got to be
clowny.
time to clown.
Right, right.
This is the
Um,
longest she's gone without like an announcement in a long time, or
mm-hmm.
anything. Anything,
Right.
Taylor?
Yeah. I wonder, she's probably just like living it up or scheming. Who knows?
Mhm. Laying all the dominoes out.
Right, right. To make them cascade in a
In a
line.
line.
But yeah, I also, of course, like I'm not expecting like a brand new album anytime soon, but I do wonder like what will the next era be like? Like what will be the aesthetic? Like I don't know.
I know. Ugh. Is it plaid? Is it red?
I
But
mean,
we've
the
already had
plaid,
red.
we've already had red. I do
Mhm.
think like the plaid has to mean something because there's just too much.
It can tie into rep, so it
Mm-hmm.
might mean that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny, like how many colors can tie into rep at this point. It's like, it
Yeah.
could be red or black or gold or plaid or green.
We just will never know because she has in the past like used her clothes to like communicate stuff. So like
Mhm.
we aren't being like totally off base.
I would also agree.
Right. Us? No.
No.
Who do
This
you think
isn't
we
off
are?
base. Have we been off base most of the times in the past? Yes, but not this time.
Mhm. Right, right,
Potentially,
right.
yes. She made us this
She
way.
she made us this way.
I'm just excited to clown again, if I'm being honest, because there was a few months there where I wasn't excited to.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, yeah, maybe every time I
We
saw
were
Theory.
we were hurt. We were cut deep.
We were.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And now it feels like it just certainly has to be soon. So I'll jump on board with any theory presented to me at this point, I think.
Yep.
Because one of
Yep.
them's got to be right. Or not, but
Exactly.
it's got to be here soon. It's got to be
Right.
here soon.
At some point. Oh. Yeah.
Follow us on TikTok at Crimenelia ST Podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Crimenelia Street. Or send us an email, especially if you have any ideas of cases you'd like to hear us cover, at crimeliast@gmail.com. Bye, clowns.
Bye, clowns.